Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today we'll be doing a box office preview which sees the release of Clifford the Big Red Dog, which I'm sure everyone and their mother has been wanting to go see, and of course it's gonna defeat Disney's Eternals, and that's obviously not true. But anyway, before going any further, please make sure that you smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel with that bell notification on. That way you know every time a new video or live stream goes live on the channel. And also smash the rumble button if you're watching over there. So Eternals is, of course, going to be the big news of this weekend, despite Clifford the Big Red Dog coming out this weekend, and that is because we're looking at that week 2 drop-off, and especially what is going to be worldwide. As I've mentioned in previous videos, it opened in 93% of the international marketplace, and so whatever the drop-off is and whatever the number that we have this weekend, it's going to be a pretty good indicator of whether or not the film is going to reach financial profitability or not. I'll be able to make my projections on Sunday once we get the actual weekend projections, including international numbers. And let's just say that I don't have very high expectations for this film, especially as we continue to move through the month of November, and there actually being films that are going to be more competitive and absolutely knock off Eternals, whereas Clifford the Big Red Dog, let's just be honest here, not really a film, especially a live action film, that anyone was really asking for there. So Eternals is expected to make $26.2 million, which is a 63% drop-off, which in comparison to other MCU films is pretty much on par there. So it's not really a strong indicator one way or the other of the film being a massive flop. That being said, I do think that that number will probably be a bit higher as far as the actual drop-off is concerned, because what we have seen when it comes to these box office projections is that typically, at least from Box Office Pro, they tend to have a lot of a higher percentage drop-off than what they expect it to be, and we'll have a pretty good indicator of that based on what the Friday drop-off is. So tomorrow morning we'll have a box office update talking about what the Friday to Friday numbers are, and if we're seeing another massive drop-off there, then it could indicate that the number could actually be in the mid-60s, maybe even the low 70s, which again would not be completely out of the ordinary, but also would not spell very good news for the film as far as having long legs, which this film needs to have in order to make the $500+ million worldwide that it needs to break even. So we'll see also how well or how not well it does in the international drop-offs as well. So they expect the film then to be at $117.9 million. So whereas the other films from the MCU to come out this year were able to break even during the week of their release, so Black Widow making $100 million by its first Wednesday, and Shang-Chi making its first $100 million by its first Tuesday, all the while Eternals, all we have right now are the Wednesday numbers for it, still at $85 million in comparison to the others. And so as you can see, this film is tracking behind the other MCU films to come out this year. Black Widow, as we remember, was also competing against itself on Disney+, so that is another factor to take into account there. And Shang-Chi, of course, had a massive Monday, which is the reason why that film is so far ahead, and explains probably why those weekday numbers are also a little bit lower. So it's really going to be the second Friday, second Saturday, second Sunday numbers of comparison that we are going to want to have a look at to try and see where this film will hold up in comparison. If you look to, for instance, a film like Black Widow, it was able to add on another 8 million, 10 million, so again, about 18.4 million there, and then this would have put it up to about, $25.7 million, and so that would be, again, a little bit less than what Eternals is expected to make there. So again, that's the reason why I have a thought that this film will probably end up being a much bigger drop-off than that. Obviously, when you compare that to a film like Shang-Chi, which was able to add another almost $35 million in its second weekend, obviously Shang-Chi is going to end up winning the weekend battle there, but the real question for me that I'm going to be looking at and paying attention to is, okay, just how close does it get to the box office of Black Widow? because that seems to be the trajectory that I think this film is going to take, at least, domestically, not doing nearly as well domestically, but also potentially internationally as well. So that's kind of the film that I'm looking to compare it to. This film, by the end of its second weekend, had $131 million. This film is expected to have 117. So again, based on that pacing behind, not doing as well in the domestic market, even if it does pace better ahead in the international market, which is what a lot of these different sites and box office prognosticators are kind of focusing on here, I think that's going to kind of even itself out. And having, again, the comparison between this and Black Widow is why I think the film will probably end up capping out around $375 million to $425 million is what my early guess and estimate would be, which of course would be well below the $500 million it needs to actually break even. We also had an interesting fact that came out just recently in a quarterly earnings report, which is that even though they claimed, Disney of course claimed, that because of box office successes of Free Guy and Black Widow and Shang-Chi, they actually still ended up reporting losses. They still ended up reporting operation losses. And so even though I myself I pointed out that the Shang-Chi, by in and of itself, has shown itself to be profitable and making its own money back, and a little bit of extra cheddar on top of that. Black Widow, not really in the same account there, and Eternals is likely going to be a much bigger box office loss for them, and they don't have any other MCU films set to come out this year other than Spider-Man, but they are splitting that with Sony. And so, therefore, even if that film ends up being a massive hit, which I expect it to be the highest grossing film of the year as far as the films that come out in 2021, I still have doubts about it reaching $1 billion just because I'm just, again, looking at what the box office is currently doing and what the peak of the box office currently is at the point right now, which is roughly around $700+ million. And again, that would have to be a pretty impressive run for that film to be able to reach that amount of money. That all being said, Eternals expected to have a drop off that indicates to me that the domestic box office is going to be less than impressive, obviously falling short of the $131 million made by Black Widow, the $144 million made by Shang-Chi, which would, again, if we were to kind of play that out, kind of indicate as to why this film is likely going to fall underneath $200 million. So again, since it's pacing right now behind Black Widow ended around $183 million domestically. I would expect that this film will probably end, $160 million domestically by the end of its run if it remains consistently falling behind and consistently percentage-wise behind where Black Widow is. So again, going to be behind Black Widow, well behind what Shang-Chi was able to do. And of course, we'll have to look at those international numbers to see just how close those are as well. Right now, again, we don't have everything coming from this past week, but again, $90 million versus $193 million. So as I said, it's going to be less than what the Black Widow was able to do at $183 million, but it might be able to do a little bit more than the $193 million that it was able to do. Then again, Shang-Chi was also capping around $193 million as well. So if this film still makes that amount of money and underperforms here, you can see even the peak, which is Shang-Chi, is not enough. So even if the film reaches Shang-Chi levels in some capacity, still going to be a box office flop because it's not going to reach the $500 million it needs to break even. So as you can see, things are not looking very good for this film, and we'll have a much better idea about this domestically as far as domestic numbers are concerned tomorrow when we get those Friday to Friday drops, and on Sunday for the box office breakdown, which I will do both here on this channel where I'll break down every single movie, and then also on the Geeks and Gamers channel where I will be focusing specifically on Eternals and some of the other big films to come out. But what are your thoughts about this? Are you surprised to see Eternals doing this poorly, or do you think that it was going to do a little bit worse? Let me know your thoughts on that. Also, No Time to Die is continuing to add on to its money, so it could actually maybe squeak out reaching that break-even number if it continues to perform internationally. Of course, we'll have to look at those international numbers when they come out, but it is still seeing small drop-offs, $4.9 million. Also, Dune making 5.6, 28% drop-off, so it's doing relatively well legs-wise domestically. The problem is that it's already kind of reached its max point internationally, and because of that, it's really running out of room for it. But something that I had mentioned earlier could actually be incorrect, which was that I did not think the film could reach $100 million. But at this point, I would say that it's definitely much more possible now. Expected to be at $93.4 million by the end of this weekend. So it's still going to have, again, the law of diminishing returns, and so it could squeak out the $100 million, be a little over $100 million by the end of its run domestically, but as I said, international numbers count as well. This film needs to make $412 million overall in order for it to break even. Right now, it's at $332 million, so it's still possible. Again, mostly because of an international performance and marketplace there. But it's going to be a bit of a close one for this one, because this number, again, going to go up a little bit. This number not going to go up nearly as much, just because, again, of it running out of space and running out of room. What are your thoughts about this and anything else I mentioned in the comments section below? If you like this video, smash that like button, like that fire button, smash the rumble button. It really does mean a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my November Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals members. Starting first off with Patreon, Andrew Hoyle, animation commentator, Brandon, Brian P., Christopher Bowman, Dolores Ed, Dion, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Harold Francis, Inflamed Wood, Jacob the Juice, JC, Jeffrey Toon, Joe Horn, Jonathan Carney, Gomer Kyle 79, Laura the Modern Major General Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mondo Spieler, Mr. Peabody, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Rosetta Ullen, Stan Andrian, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, and Tina B, the Empress of the Universe. And a shout out to my Subscribestar members, UAB, Mad Dog, Storm Tracker, The R, Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stan 4, John B, Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J, Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / the new number 2, and J Rod, the Beer Guru, and of course, ZK Man. Thank you very much for supporting me over there. And to my 3 supporters over on locals.com, Kara Tharp, Bifford a Hobbit, and Robert Barnes. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and every video I do on the channel, check out that top link in the description below to find out how to sign up to the various levels that exist, including the most basic level where you get a shout out, the secondary level, the Army of Asgard, where you get that, plus access to a giveaways exclusive server where I give away things like 4Ks and Blu-rays and digital codes. All kinds of stuff, a lot of fun. You then also have the Keeper of the Bifrost level where you get all that stuff, plus access to an exclusive podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger. You get to ask us questions, and you get also access to that and the entire library of podcast episodes that we have done. And then there is, of course, the Chosen of Valhalla level, where not only do you get all of that, but also in your first month, you get a t-shirt of your choice and sent to you anywhere in the world. Of course, just let me know your size and the color option that you want. It'll be sent to you that first month. And also, you get to be featured on the once a month Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where we have a ton of fun talking about movies and projects and all kinds of stuff. Pretty much anything that the Chosen wants to talk about is on the table. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, check out that top link. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, God bless.